Okay, good morning. We're going to continue with Hilchos Avodah Zarah. We are doing Siman Kuf Mem Vav. Kuf Mem Vav. Today's shir should be Refuah Shleima Nisim Ben Ne'ima Avimori. And okay, so we finished off with Seif Hey, just as a reminder, but it's relevant, that we learned that a goy could be mevatel another goy's Avodah Zarah. Interesting enough, even without his permission. And he doesn't even have to, the Ran points out, he doesn't even have to believe in that same Avodah Zarah, but he has to be someone who's familiar with Avodah Zarah in general. But lav dafka that one. Okay. Let's go to Seif Vav. Ketzad mevatla. Okay, so now we learned what we could do of Avodah Zarah, what bittul to Avodah Zarah. Now we want to learn how do you actually do it. So natal me'ashera, if let's say the Avodah Zarah is an ashera. Again, just as an example for any Avodah Zarah, you take off a makel, a twig, or afilu ale echad, or even one leaf, or as the Mishnah said, even a toothpick, or any branch, whatever. Okay. Even if it's dry, moist, doesn't matter. If it's done litzorcho, if it's done because you want to take off and use the twig or use the leaf for yourself, nit batla. So then the whole Avodah Zarah is batal, because you are demonstrating, this goy is demonstrating that this has that this is no longer an Avodah Zarah, because if he treated it like an Avodah Zarah, he wouldn't be, picking off pieces of wood as a toothpick, or for whatever his purpose is, he wouldn't be mevaze the Avodah Zarah like that. Uvein ha'ashira atzma. What's that? Tzarechot nitbatla. Uvein I don't know. How do you have a couple different nischalos? Yeah, so maybe we'll leave it. I don't know. The tzarcha needs batla hashera atzma. The whole hashera becomes batal. Not only the what you picked off. The whole Avodah Zarah is batal. Ubein hashfaim shenatal mimenu, or the shfaim means anything that came off. One of the definitions could be depending on which Rishon you look at, but basically it could be shavings. If you sand off Avodah Zarah, that's also bittul, and because you're getting the sawdust or whatever you're doing, anything that you remove from it, that's what shva'im means. Shenatal mimena, mutarim. So all those things that you pluck off are also going to be mutter. Now, however, v'im natal shva'im litzorcha. But if you just remove some of the shavings for the purpose of the Avodah Zarah, not for yourself to use, but for the Avodah Zarah, like you want to groom it, you want to trim it, you want to make a design with wood, carving out of it, whatever you want to do. If it's litzorcha dahainu liyafota, to make the Avodah Zarah nicer, so then lo nid batla, it doesn't make it batal, because you made it beautiful, exactly opposite. Via surah, and so certainly the Avodah Zarah remains asur. However, v'ashva'im mutarim, but whatever you trim off, you don't have a purpose for it, so it's going to go in the garbage, and therefore it's mutter. The shva'im themselves are mutter. Okay, zayin. Elilim shakata rosh, ozno o rosh, chotamo o rosh, etzpa'o. Now, if you have an Avodah Zarah and you cut off a piece of the, one second. Yeah, you cut off a piece of the ear, or a piece of the nose, or a piece of the foot, a toe, or a finger. Oh, shemi'acha bifaneha. Or you defame the face. You smash and dent the face of the Avodah Zarah enough that it really deforms the whole face. Afapi shelo chasra, if you're denting and really defaming, distorting the face, you don't have to remove a piece. It's good enough since it's the face. So then, batla. So then the avodah zarah is no longer avodah zarah, and it's mutter. But mi'acha, but if you dent and defame another part of the body, shelo b'fanea, that's not the face, it's not going to help to do bittul. V'lo chasera, or you didn't remove a piece of the avodah zarah, it's not going to do bittul. O shirakak b'fanea, what if you spit on its face? O hishtin b'fanea, you urinate on the face. O gira, you drag it on the floor. O zarak batet soa, or you throw feces at it. All of the excrement, all these things, it's a bizayon, these last things that we mentioned. Of course, it's a disgrace, but you can still use it. Yeah, we're talking about a goy. So it doesn't accomplish lo batla bitla or lo batla. It's not batal, because you did not accomplish. You accomplished. It is a disgrace, but you didn't accomplish doing bittul because it can still be used as it is, and they still use it as it is. Okay. Fine. So let's go on. Haga. Now this is the Ramah Tarkin. He argues on the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch holds you could only do bittul with a ma'isa. What does the Ramah say? V'yesh omrim, right? It's a machlokas rishonim. V'yesh omrim dafilu bitla be'amira be'alma havi bittul. As long as a goy verbally says that it's no longer avodah zarah, then it works. Dafilu bitla be'amira be'alma havi bittul. As long as he verbally says it's bittul, then it works. Aval im batla mikoach ones ena mevutalet ad shi'aseh ma'aseh begufa. But the Rama agrees that if you're doing it either through onus or you're doing it against the owner's will, bal korcho, then it works only with a maisa, but you can't do bittul on someone else's avodah zarah through a goy. A goy can't do bittul to avodah zarah of someone else through a dibur, through a speech. But
it's almost even his own avodah zarah. It's mashma him, but he also has to do
yeah, onus is basically bal korcho. But by nature it doesn't work. Yeah. Okay. Now, on this topic, just interesting to point out, when you read ahead, the question is, should we point this out now or later? Maybe we'll wait for halacha yud, and then we'll come back. A short explanation over here of the machlokas. Okay, so let's keep reading, and then we'll come back. Chet. Seif chet. Machra or mashkana, if a goy sells his avodah zarah, or he lends it out as a mashkon, right? Collateral. Afilu litzoraf Yisrael lo betela. So even if he gives it to it's not going to be batal. The only way it's batal is if you do a ma'isa. And according to the Rabbah, through a dibur as well. But selling it is not going to work. Even if it's something that you're selling to a Jew who's going to melt it down, so then it's still not going to be batal. V'yesh matirin b'tzoref Yisrael. Now there are some who are mekel by tzoref Yisrael, because we know he's going to melt it down, and right. It's a machlokas rishonim. The Gra points out if it's dafka or not, but the halacha is that even according to the Eish Omrim, it's only if it's dafka to its. The case when it's mutter is when it does bittul, is when it's dafka to a person who's going to melt it down, and the goy knows that.
Didn't you know that the goy sells his avodah zarah? It is it's a bittul, isn't it?
So show me after. Haga umesham avodah zarah im mashkano o macharo havi bittul. Now, what we said, until now it was selling the goy, the avodah zarah itself is not bittul. But if you sell the mishamshe, the stuff that's used to serve the avodah zarah, so then by selling it or giving it as a mashkon, that is bittul. And the Taz points out, so obviously if you sell it, he says that does bittul, but merely a mashkon, the goy plans to get the mashkon back shortly. So that's not enough. What's the case of mashkon that is enough to do bittul? It's when the zman passed and he didn't redeem it. Because at a certain point, let's say you lend it for a week, a month, a year, you only give a mashkon for so long. And then you basically decide, okay, now I'm keeping the mashkon instead of the loan. So when that zman is over, then it's as if you sold it, and then it becomes bittul. Okay, let's read Tet. If there's an avalanche or a building collapses and it lands on it, so even though it's underneath the pile of rubble, or even if ganavim they steal it, it's not betela. Okay, that's not enough. Natural disaster is not enough either. Okay. What? It's not betela. I don't know. You'll fill me in. Yud. Inichua of deha v'halchula lahem bishat shalom muteret. Bishat milchama asura. Okay. Let's say you have the goyim, they have their avodah zarah in their house or whatever there is, and they run away when it's a time of freedom, and they're not coming back. They're leaving the avodah zarah there. So then we assume it's batal. All right? Ubishat milchama. If it's a time of war, so they all run out because they're afraid of getting killed or they're going out to battle, whatever it is, they all run away because it's onus, but they're planning to come back. So then asura, it remains asur. We don't see any reason to assume they're mevatel it. V'hu she'enam yecholim lachzor ba. That's when they're able to not come back. That's when we say bishat milchama asura. Aval im hayu yecholim lachzor la. But now it's safe for them to come back. V'lo chazru, and they still didn't come back. Muteret. Then we say it's muter. Okay, so here. So going back to the halacha, I think it was chet or zayin. Zayin. Bittul bepeh or not. So this is one of the pivotal points to show the source of the machloket. So the Gemara has this case. The Mishnah has this case. In avodah zarah, it talks about the milchama. So the question is, how are they doing bittul in the time of the milchama? So the Gra points out, because they did it b'machshava. They ran away. There was no ma'isa involved. So you see from here that bittul b'machshava does work. The Drisha says, according to the Shulchan Aruch or Beis Yosef, who holds that bittul has to be b'ma'isa, the assumption is, in this case, it was when they left, they did a quick ma'isa or something to be mevatel it. So that's the perhaps Hezber how it's not a stira.
Or maybe the running away is the mice.
Running away could be a ma'isa if they're not coming back. Correct.
Maybe that's not.
It could also be the fact that you show that you're not coming back and it's no longer a god whatsoever in your eyes. Perhaps that's good enough. Okay. There's a. Okay. We'll just leave that as a possibility. It may be dachuk, may be correct, but it's a. If it's bishat milchama, it's asur because they're going to come back. There is no bittul. But we're talking about, let's say it's a peaceful, and they could come back, or it's peaceful and they leave it. So we don't see in the Mishnah that they did a ma'isa before they left. So it could be they did a ma'isa. You have to plug it in, or it could be, like Moshe is saying, that the fact that they have Sometimes when you totally negate it and show that it's not avodah zarah and you're not coming back, memela that could be bittul. It's a little dochak in the Shulchan Aruch. The Chazon Ish says that on something else. An art scroll quotes it, the art scroll Hebrew Mishnayos. But if that applies here, all right, tzarachil. Anyway, and then the Nosei Kelim point out. So it depends on the case. Selling it is not the same, because selling it you might think you might get it back. It was onus. Who says the Jew might use it, or the person you sell it to might use it as a avodah zarah. So therefore, anyway, so that's the little hesber here. Okay. But the case of the army is we assume vadai he was a bittul. The question is, was there a meiser or not? Okay, let's go on to Yud Aleph. Elilim shenishbara me'aleh. If you have the avodah zarah, the gods that they broke on their own, so we learned that that's not going to be batal. It needs a meiser, or at least perhaps dibur. So then shivareha asurim. So if it broke through natural disaster, the pieces are still asur. There was no bittul yet. So it's asurim behana ad sheyiv tilua, until the goy comes and is mevatel it. Lefichach hamotzei shivrei lidam harei asurim behana. So if you find the broken pieces, it's still asur behana. Shama lo bitlua hagoyim, because maybe the goyim were not mevatel it. V'yimaita shel prakim. V'hedyot yachol lachziram tzarich levatel kol perek uperek miparakeh. If there are pieces of it that broke, but you can still reconnect or reuse those pieces, so then it's not enough to be bittul on one piece, you have to be bittul on every single piece, because every single piece can be rebuilt or reused. But if it cannot be reused, and perhaps you go on, nowadays when everything is disposable, perhaps there's a more leniency on this one, but usually when things break a little bit, you just throw out the whole thing and start from scratch. Anyways, ve'im eino yachol lachzir, kevan shabatel ever echad mimena bitlu kol hashavarim. But if you can't reuse all those pieces, so bittul wasn't done yet. So as long as you do bittul on one of those pieces, that works for all of them. Okay, and the Shach points out it doesn't matter if it's big pieces or small pieces. Since you're not going to reuse them, you do a little bit, a bit on part of it, and it's all batal. Okay, Yud Bet, Mizbeach shel Elilim, Shenifkam. Now, if you have a Mizbeach, an altar used for avodah zarah, and a piece of it broke off, Shenifkam, Adayin hu asur ad she'enatetz rubo al yedei goyim. It's still usable, even though it's got a little damaged, and it's going to be asur behana until a goy comes and destroys the majority of it. Ubimos shenifkam, but if it's a bimos, also an altar, that a goy broke off a piece, even kol shehu, then it's mutter. The whole thing is batal. What's the difference? What's a mizbeach? Ezehu bimos vezehu mizbeach. What's a bimos? What's a mizbeach? Bimos is even achas. It's one stone. So if you break off part of it, it's a pagam on the whole thing. A mizbeach is avanim harbe. A mizbeach, the definition of a mizbeach in this halacha, is it's made up of many small stones, and therefore breaking off one of the stones is not a pagam enough to be mevatel the whole thing, because it still could be usable. And they're both okay. I think we'll go on. I'll just point out I don't know who has it in my version. So I have the Erech Lechem Lamaharikash, who points out, because quotes from Tosfos. It's a longer Tosfos, but just to point out, maybe more to raise a question or an awareness. He writes, Gevia shepigamo hagoy ubitlo asr lachsor lamochel hagoy ad shehi nitach kulo. You have a goblet, a silver goblet or whatever that's used by the goy, even though in the case a piece it was pogim and it was mevutal. In the case of Tosfos, you're still asr to give it back to him. Tosfos says because it could be lifnei iver. Just depending on the case, if it's technically lifnei iver or not. But giving back anything to a priest, or in the case of Tosfos, or whatever the avodah zarah is because you don't want to enable them, even though they'll still use it. Even though if it has a pagam, many of us have a silver becher that gets dented, but we still keep using it. So even though it has a pagam, it could still be reused. Okay, and if that case, so whatever, and depending on any case, if it was actually mevutel or not, there's could still be an issue of giving it back. And if it was actually a bittul according to the Shulchan Aruch or not, it's a question. But anyways, let's go on. Yud Gimel, hamevatel elilim nidbatlu mishamshea. Once a goy is mevatel the avodah zarah itself, so then any of the mishamshim for that is avodah zarah memela become batel as well, because they got all their koach from the avodah zarah. Afilu imhem kavar biyad Yisrael itbatlu im avodah zarah shebiyad agoy. Let's say the goy still has the avodah zarah, but he sold the mishamshim to the what stuff that was used for the avodah zarah. If it's a meyuchad kos for the avodah zarah, so then when the Jew owns all these mishamshim, it could be when he bought it, it's asar be'ana. But the goy, when he's bevatel the avodah zarah, it's not magically, but all of a sudden now, all of the stuff that the Jew bought becomes mater behana.
What the Jew owns the avodah zarah?
So once the Jew owns the avodah zarah, I think we say you can't be mevatel anymore, because now the avodah zarah belongs to the Jew, and any avodah zarah. So, if I understand correctly, we say like this: if this is actually the beginning of the siman, if the Jew owns it, but he doesn't consider it avodah zarah, so then it's only a din derabanan that it's aser, and so therefore we're less machmer, especially on a gzeira, because if the Jew owns it and treats it as avodah zarah, so then it's a deraisa. But if it's avodah zarah of a goy, but he bought it, but he doesn't treat it, as avodah zarah, I think it's only a gzeira. And that's spelled out in the Vilna in the Gra, in Seif Katan Bet, in this siman. Okay. Bitel misham sheha lo nidbat lahi. Doing bitel on the misham sheha is doing. Wait, who owns it in this case? Oh boy. Bitul mishamsheh lo nitbat lahi. That's referring to the avodah zarah. If you do a bitul on the mishamshim, it doesn't help to do a bitul that doesn't do memela bitul on the avodah zarah. All right, that should be obvious. Yudalit. Mitzvah kol hamotzi elilim shevrenu v'yavdenu v'keitzad. Okay, there's a mitzvah to remove any avodah zarah and to destroy it. Shevrenu v'yavdenu, and make it lost. That's a mitzvah aseh to remove any avodah zarah. Okay, v'keitzad mevara. How do you do that? You sochek or shochek. I forget it. Shochek. V'zoreh leruach, and then you take the shavings and you throw it into the wind. O matio leyam, or you throw the shavings into the ocean, or you can even, the shach says, just take the whole item itself without doing shchika and just throw it into the Yam HaMelach. Okay.
I wonder if that's still good today.
Or perhaps,
deep dive.
Yeah, deep diving, or maybe not, or maybe an ocean is okay as well. He was saying you need to do shechika for rivers. Okay, let's go on. V'hu hadin b'mashmashea v'chol anase b'shvila shene'amar abed tevidun et kol hamekomot. So you have to drive out and destroy avodah zarah and its mishamshim. Let's just finish. Tedvav. Tzarich l'sharish achar halilim. There's a mitzvah to go after and to remove any elilim, any avodah zarah, and to go after and look for it. So the first case was if you find it. Now, do you have to go out and search for it in homes and all over the place, in buildings throughout the land? So this applies, yes, there's a mitzvah. The God also quotes it, the mitzvah aseh, that this applies, the poskim point out, it only applies in Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz, you don't have to go search for it to remove it. V'lechanot la shem ganai. And it's also a mitzvah to get, when you mention the name of an avodah zarah, to use a name that, like a kinoi, a nickname that's derogatory. Exactly. The Shach points out that that's only that you should use a derogatory kinoi is only in Eretz Yisrael. But the Taz points out, no, that clearly refers to anywhere in the world. It's the part that the Marshal is referring to Dafka in Eretz Yisrael that's going on l'sharesh, to go search for it, to destroy it. Okay, I'll stop here.